So the last thing that we're going to talk about with percentage is interest. So interest, there are two types that we're going to talk about, simple interest and compound interest. So interest is the amount of money that is paid or earned for the use of money. Um, like banks will pay you interest for keeping money in a savings account as like almost like a thank you for letting them borrow or have your money. They'll give you an interest. Those interest rates are generally pretty low. Then most of the time, interest is something that we are going to be paying. So if you borrow money, they're going to charge you interest for borrowing that money. It's kind of like your way of saying thank you for lending me this money. Credit cards are probably the most common interest that we know about. So you have a credit card and you use it all month, and at the end of the month your bill comes and it's $500 and you pay 300 of the 500. You're going to get interest charged on the remaining $200 in your balance because that's your way of that's how they let you borrow their money. So you're going to pay additional money on top of that balance. So as a borrower, you're going to get charged interest, and that's compound interest, which we'll talk about later. Another place is like a student loan or a mortgage, right? You go to buy a house, you're going to have to pay interest on that loan because that's how they make their money. So you're going to pay them back plus interest. So anytime you hear in a movie or TV show or in life, you hear someone say, pay me back plus interest, what they're talking about is that additional amount of money on top of what you needed and how the amount that you borrowed, you're going to pay interest. It's another amount of money that gets added to the total. So when we're talking about that amount of money that's borrowed or deposited, that's our principal. So anytime we talk about principal with interest, we're talking about that amount, the initial amount of money that is borrowed or given out. Simple interest is calculated only one time, so it's going to be calculated at the initiation of the loan. Annual interest rate is the percentage of the principal earned or paid each year. So annual means yearly. So if you have a simple interest loan, that's going to be charged interest every year that you use it. Okay, so simple interest is interest that's earned or paid on the principal. It's only calculated one time. Your formula is capital I, standing for the interest amount, is calculated by the principal times the rate times time. The rate is always as a decimal, so it's going to be a percentage written as a decimal, and the time will always be in years. So if you're talking about months, you have to convert that. If I was talking about like 8 months, you have to convert that to a decimal and talk about it out of years, or use it as a fraction, 8/12. So for example number 1, find the simple interest earned on a $500 after 5 years in a money market account paying 5%. So a money market account is like a type of savings account. So you take your formula, interest equals the principal times the rate times time, and you're going to substitute that in. So your interest equals 500 because that's our principal, it's what we're starting with. 5% is written as 0.5, and it's 5 years. And then you can use a calculator to calculate that, and you'll see that the interest earned is $125. So in 5 years, on that $500 that you put in that savings account, they're going to pay you $125 for keeping money in that account. For example number 2, Jose deposits $2,000 of his tax refund into an account that earns simple annual interest. After 6 months, the balance is $2,040. Find the annual interest rate. So we have our formula, interest equals principal times rate times time. When we substitute here, we have the principal. We actually have the interest amount as well if we do a little bit of calculation. We're looking for the rate, so that's what's going to be our variable. That R is going to stay as our variable. And then our time is going to be 0.5 since it's out of years, and 6 months is half of a year, right? Or you can, like I said before, you can leave it as a fraction. So for the amount of interest, because I'm going to take 2,000 and subtract that from the balance and find that difference of 40. Calculate, and then I'm going to divide both sides by 1,000 because 2,000 times 1/2 is 1,000. 40 divided by 1,000 is 0.04 or 4%. So my interest rate is 4%.